The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as Pam Bondi stepped through the heavy wooden doors. She had faced fierce opposition before, but today felt different. This wasn't just another case, this was a battle, and her opponent sat high on the bench, wearing a black robe and a smirk that betrayed his intentions. Judge Leonard Paxton was a man known for his razor-sharp tongue and blatant disregard for attorneys who didn't bow to his authority. Pam Bondi knew his reputation well, but what she didn't know, what she couldn't have prepared for, was how far he was willing to go to silence her. The case before the court was a high-profile fraud scandal involving a pharmaceutical giant accused of falsifying clinical trial results to rush an untested drug to market. Lives had been lost. Families had been shattered. And Bondi was there to make sure justice was served. As she approached the plaintiff's table, she could feel the weight of Judge Paxton's gaze. He didn't even bother to hide his disdain. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, twirling a pen between his fingers. "Miss Bondi," he drawled, barely glancing up from the file in front of him, "I trust you have something worthwhile for us today? Or are we about to embark on another one of your grandstanding performances?" A ripple of chuckles spread through the defense team, but Bondi didn't flinch. "Your Honor, the evidence in this case speaks for itself. The defendants knowingly manipulated drug trials, resulting in unnecessary deaths. My job is to ensure those facts are presented clearly." Paxton scoffed, flipping a page without interest. Yes. Tragic, really. But let's be honest, Miss Bondi, aren't we all just a little tired of your relentless crusades?" A murmur spread through the gallery. Bondi took a steady breath, unwilling to give him the reaction he wanted. "Your Honor, I'd like to direct the court's attention to Exhibit A, an internal memo proving that executives were aware of the dangers before the drug was approved." Paxton barely glanced at the screen. "Ah, paperwork. A lawyer's favorite weapon when they don't have a real case." Bondi met his gaze evenly. "With all due respect, Your Honor, this is not just paperwork. It's a smoking gun." His smirk widened, but there was something else beneath it now, a flicker of something she couldn't quite place. "Spare me the theatrics, Miss Bondi. Let's move this along before we all die of boredom." Bondi clenched her jaw, flipping to another document. "Then perhaps this will keep your attention. This email, obtained through a federal subpoena, directly implicates senior officials in the cover-up." She tapped the screen, displaying the damning evidence. The courtroom fell silent. Even the defense attorney's smirk faltered. But Paxton? He leaned forward, his smirk gone. His fingers curled slightly against the desk. "Miss Bondi," he said, his voice quieter now, more controlled. "Approach the bench." The shift was instant. The room tensed as Bondi stepped forward, her heels clicking against the marble floor. When she reached the bench, Paxton lowered his voice. "I strongly suggest you tread carefully. Some fights aren't worth having." Bondi tilted her head slightly. "That sounds an awful lot like a warning, Your Honor." His jaw tightened. "It's advice." She let a slow smile cross her lips. "I don't scare easily." She turned and walked back to her table, her heart pounding. That exchange told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't just judicial bias. Paxton had something to lose. She lifted her chin, addressing the court. "Your Honor, I'd like to present one final document." Paxton exhaled sharply. "Make it brief." She clicked to the next slide. "This is a wire transfer, $2 million deposited into an offshore account 2 weeks before this drug was approved." She let the room absorb the number before continuing. "And here is the account holder's name." The screen shifted. Judge Leonard Paxton. The room cracked open with whispers, reporters scrambling for notes, jurors exchanging stunned glances. The defense attorney's face went pale. Paxton didn't move, didn't blink. But Bondi could see the tightening of his fingers, the rigid line of his shoulders. "Your Honor," she said, her voice crisp, "would you care to explain why your name appears on a financial transaction linked to the defendant?" For the first time since she'd entered the courtroom, Judge Paxton looked truly rattled. Then his voice came low and firm. "That document is inadmissible." Bondi folded her arms. "On what grounds?" "It was improperly obtained." She let the silence stretch. "Your Honor, this was subpoenaed through official channels." His nostrils flared. "Then it was mishandled." The courtroom shifted again. Jurors straightened, reporters scribbled faster, and the tension became suffocating. Bondi inhaled deeply. "So, just to clarify, you are declaring crucial financial evidence inadmissible without any legal basis." "That's enough, Miss Bondi." But she wasn't finished. Slowly, she reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small recorder. Without a word, she pressed play. A voice crackled through the silent courtroom. Deep, gruff, unmistakable. "Make sure it doesn't come out. I don't care how." The audio hissed, then continued. "Take care of Bondi if she gets too close." Silence. Judge Paxton's face drained of color. Bondi didn't look at him. She didn't need to. Every single person in that room had just heard the truth, and the real game was about to begin.